Hey, what's up, everyone? Today is February 5th, 2025, and this is the Dattie podcast. And I am here with Valerie Weber from Micropigmentation Educators down in Florida. What's up, Valerie?
Hey, what's going on?
Thanks for coming on. I know we were talking before we started. How's life down in Florida?
The weather's great.
Yeah.
The people, are kind of interesting, but just a little different than the Northeast people, but I like it.
Yeah, I looked up your studio before we talked, and your Doylestown location, and we'll get into that, is only an hour and 27 minutes from me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's it's pretty close to
Yeah.
Delaware.
Yeah, I usually don't talk to people who are that close. Not because I don't want to. I plan on talking to do you know Tara Rebel? I plan on talking to her at some point. I know she's pretty close too.
Yeah, Tara is actually somebody that's affiliated with us.
Is she?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
I know we'll get to talking about all kinds of stuff, but yeah, I'll explain later.
okay. I was looking at your website. I always stalk everybody's website before I talk to them on the podcast. And I liked how you had it state by state PMU regulations. I thought that was genius. And it was probably kind of tedious too. But I even saw Delaware on there. I even saw you had Delaware on there. Whose idea was that? Why'd you do that?
So that particular website is like our informational site, and it's really a place where trainers can go as well as students if they're interested in learning SMP or permanent makeup. And we figured, you know what, if since the regulations differ from state to state and even county to county in some places, it might be a useful resource for people interested in learning the SMP or permanent makeup skill set. And so we put it there as well as for people who want to train. Our business really caters to trainers and providing curriculum for them. So, if they plan on doing that, they might want to just make sure that they meet the right criteria.
Makes sense. I might cheat and use some of that in the future. Send somebody. I get people from PA, Maryland, these different areas. I'm like, just go check her website because they always ask me. I'm like, I don't know the rule. I know Delaware rules, but I don't really know too much about the other rules.
Even I have to reference the rules. It's impossible to memorize them. So it's good for us. But I'll tell you what, updating those links on a regular basis is tough because they break sometimes as the governments change their website pages and whatnot. So we have to constantly like go in and make sure that they work.
It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
I had met you. Was it? I guess what's it been 4 months now? 3 or 4 months ago at Meeting of the Minds. What you think of Meeting of the Minds?
It was a good conference in the sense that like there was a lot of camaraderie and I felt like a lot of networking that took place at that particular conference. I just like meeting people. I like getting the energy from people. I personally met a good amount of new artists there, like yourself, and well, not new, like you're not new to tattooing, but like new to me. I
Yeah.
met several new people there this year, and I've been many, many times.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw you were a winner in a previous one as well, get over in when it was in England.
Yeah.
So did you like the speeches and the presentations? Did you see mine? Did I do terrible?
No, you didn't. But you didn't do terrible. There was the only thing that I would say about like the speakers. I personally would like to see more technical, and I don't mean like the setups where people are actually tattooing, where you can see that's definitely cool. But I think for speakers, maybe I felt like there was a lot of good inspirational stuff, but I think sometimes people want to hear like the technical stuff too. So that would be my suggestion for Meeting of the Minds for Team Micro is to, maybe add some more deeper stuff, you know.
In regards to the techniques?
Yeah, common problems like even going through like really like I would say would you like me to give you some like topics that I think would be good that a conference covered?
I didn't talk about anything technical.
Well, I
I
was gonna say because I did step out for some, so I don't know. But what I will say is if there were topics that they should cover or at any conference, um I think I think if they talked about things like color theory,
Okay.
if they talked more about like the types of pigments and really getting like the audience to understand the difference between them. It could even be needles. And the reason I say that is I do think that maybe there's a little bit of reservation from people who host the conferences. Do you think that maybe there's a little bit of fear that if they talk about those kind of things, that they might take away from the online course sales of trainers who are selling color theory courses or other classes?
I think that's a possibility. I think that's a possibility. Uh, Anthony Angeloni went up there and he talked about his needles that he created, and he gave free samples. Did you see his needles? The, True
Yeah, I
Powerful
grabbed
needles?
I grabbed some
Yeah,
samples as well.
yeah. So I did like that. I understand what you mean, but I also yeah, giving away too much free information might be some hesitancy there, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's really like a 45-minute time block, and I think that even includes questions. Most conferences don't give you more than an hour time block these days, and if you do want to sell a class, you could always add on like a course to a conference, like a half day, a full day, whatever. Workshop, I think they call them workshops. um, but if we don't give some kind of general knowledge, I think we're kind of keeping our industry in the dark. So that's, in my history of tattooing 23 years, that's where I got a lot of, basic information. And then a lot of it came when I took advanced courses, when I developed my own skill, just practicing myself. Those dots were starting to connect, right? I started to understand more about what I heard in a conference. It didn't mean though that those people didn't make money off of their trainings, but there's only so much like, positive power stuff that I can listen to. Like when I go to a conference with my experience, I want to get something from the conference besides, feel good stuff. Um
Sorry.
no, no, no. I'm not saying it that I'm just like to me it seems like, and this isn't a bad thing. This is just my personal preference. I think the conference is great, but I also think, if you're asking like where could there be improvement, I think shouldn't be every single speaker. We do need the feel good stuff. We do need the law of attraction, and we do need, to know about, finances and all these types of things. But we also need the technical. It is what we do for a living. So, going to a conference when you're spending a lot of money, I think having those extra bits and pieces, like maybe a couple of those a day would be good.
Yeah, I talked to Nas and Damien afterwards, and I told them my suggestions. And I think a lot of people who go to the meeting of the minds and go to these conferences, one, they're excited to meet the people that they've been talking to on Instagram or Facebook or
Oh yeah.
TikTok, whatever, for years, right? So that's one piece. The other piece is even though we're adults, people get impatient. So when you're up there and you're watching somebody for 45 minutes or an hour, people get impatient. They want to get up, they want to do stuff. I think there should be more breakouts and like almost team building exercises. And then
Mhm, mhm.
and then Billy was going over there and he was doing SMP, but I think that should be more people doing SMP, more models. And then they can ask more questions while they're there. And I get exactly what you mean. If you're going to pay to go there, you want to actually learn some stuff. And a lot of people probably did learn some stuff. Um, but it's different than one-on-one training, right? When you're in there and there's a whole group of people. Uh,
Well, I just
yeah,
mean like, there's certain topics that, like let's just say somebody was on stage and they did like a whole safety segment. It's still not a bloodborne pathogens course, right? So we're not
yeah,
taking away from stuff like that. But let's just say there's common things that people might need to know. Like let's talk a little bit more about safety. There's a lot of people don't know how to wrap their machines or their cords, and so maybe they're doing a live demo and maybe there's a camera and it's projected on the screen behind them so people can actually see. Maybe there's things like that we could talk about, like the pros and cons of different types of safety materials, or when do we use them, how do we remove them. That might be very basic. I find that most conferences cater to very beginner artists. That's
sure.
not bad, but in any business, you have to think about all of your customers. And so us as artists are customers for the conferences. Conferences wouldn't exist if we didn't go. So if it's really always geared towards beginners, and that's great because they're going to want to buy all your products at the booths. They're hungry to learn, so they go. They're hungry to network. They want to go meet the people they're looking up to online. That's great. But what's the next chunk? When do we start losing interest, right? Because for me, it's like, if I'm not going and getting, no, I go because I'm there to network and market myself and my company. I like meeting new people, so it's worth it to me. I'm not saying it's not worth it, but it's nice to get my cup filled. Right? Like
Yeah.
if I go and I listen to people speak, it's like I know all this stuff, right? So I want to be challenged as well. Where do I get my cup filled? So it's one of the reasons that I am doing the business that I'm doing is because I know that as an artist, when you get to a certain number of years in your practice, and you've done all the things, you start feeling like you're pouring out more than you're pouring out to others than you are pouring into yourself, and you start feeling depleted. So you have to find that from somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I think the meeting of the minds is more geared towards the award ceremony versus the learning. I think the learning and the teaching is second to there versus did you go to like the SMP Expo or the Scalp show, the one Matt had or the one Picasso Jeff put on?
I did not.
Okay, so both of those, they had advanced training. So they had separate rooms and different trainers come in. Like I trained with do you know who D Chris is? D Black? He's this guy in South Korea. He's got this
Yes.
crazy fashion thing going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I took his
I know
advanced
of him. I
course.
don't know him. It's not like we
Yeah.
know each other.
Yeah, yeah, but you know who I'm talking about. But like he had these breakouts, so you could learn with advanced artists, and just different techniques and you have to pay a little bit extra for those.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
did
You
because I
usually do.
wanted to. And just watching Picasso Jeff, training with him, getting to do that was different. It changed up how I did hairlines. And then at the Scalp Micro show, I think his name is Omar. Um, he had an advanced technique course as well, so I took that one as well. I just think the meeting of the minds is more awards versus actual teaching. I could be wrong though. I could be wrong.
I mean, I don't know what their mission is for it, but I mean, I would assume that with the speakers that would, you know, that they would want to educate in
For
their
sure.
conferences.
Yeah. And I think they do, like you said, I think they do to a certain extent. But when you reach a certain level, you have a lot of experience. It's probably all going to be stuff you've already know. You know what I mean? It's not
Well,
too much
yeah,
new
I mean,
stuff.
even I don't not even a good example really, because like I said, after 23 years, that's different. But like even if I was like 6, 7, 8 years into my career, I'm experienced, right? And at an experience level, I still want to be able to go and network. I'm still technically young in my career, but I've done some stuff. And at 7, 8 years in, I want to get a little bit more out of a conference. Otherwise, if I'm not going to get something out of the conference, then I might choose to allocate my funds to a class rather than a conference, right?
Yeah,
So
no, I agree. I agree.
yeah,
If
so I'm
if
going to
people, if
spend
you're
that.
listening to this, if you want to learn SMP, going to a conference is not going to be the best spot to learn
No.
SMP. You want to train somewhere. Go to Micropigmentation Educators, if you're in Florida or you're in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think some of the other topics that I feel are really great for conferences are um, legal issues, like having a legal expert, like an attorney that could come and talk about how to protect yourself as a business owner, as an artist. How to approach writing your forms. Those would be really good topics. Just bring up some aha moments. Get some questions from the audience about like, hey, I had this situation pop up. What do you do? What's the best way to approach that? Maybe even an insurance carrier to discuss like how insurance works for SMP artists, why it's so important, some example claims that they've gotten, and things to look out for. I think that would be very helpful as well.
That's a
Marketing,
great idea. That's a great idea.
yeah. Yeah, so it's a little different than just like marketing. Photography people, like helping us understand lighting, and right, because lighting is so
My
tricky.
forever battle. I never I've been, yeah, yeah.
So
I get very frustrated with the glare when I'm doing my after pics to this day. To this day.
so do I. Oh, so also, totally like sidetracking here, left turn. We have clients that send us pictures from home, and they'll send a picture and be like, "Hey, am I due for a touch up?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, no, that's so dark. Like, you are not ready for a touch up." And then they'll pop in for some reason, and then I see them and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's so light." I don't know if it's their phone or what, but sometimes pictures are just showing results as either way darker than they actually are, or the opposite. And I think it depends on whether you have an iPhone or an Android.
Agreed, agreed. I've had people send me pictures, and then when I see it in person, I'm like, "That doesn't look like that in person." Yeah, it's a lot to
No.
do with lighting, or if you're using the, the selfie cam versus the other side.
Yes, yeah, because the one on the front sucks.
Well, Valerie, so where did you grow up?
I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Okay, Bucks Cow. So are you an Eagles fan? Are you
I
pumped?
am.
Okay, so you'll be watching this weekend,
Yes,
Super
we will.
Bowl.
Yep. So my
And
son's our 13-year-old is having a birthday party on Saturday, and then we turn right around and have like the whole Eagles shindig. We're going to a neighbor's house for that. That'll be fun.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
And so what was it like growing up in Bucks Cow?
It was really great. I mean, I love Pennsylvania. Ian and I are, both born and raised in Bucks County. And, there's all the beautiful, you have the same landscape in Delaware that we do in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Lots of hiking and, great outdoor experiences. Not loving the winters so much as I get a little older, but I still like Four Seasons. I love the history, the music culture, the art culture of that area. It's very well known for history. Not too far from us is Washington's Crossing.
Yeah, yeah.
Doylestown is home to the Michener Museum and Font Hill Museum, which are very famous places in Bucks County culture.
But what
New
about you? You personally, you growing up, I mean, are you an only child? Did you have both parents?
Oh
Was it
no,
crazy? Were you good? Were you a bad kid?
I was a good kid, um, but no surprise, I pushed the limits. I was probably the one of so I have an older sister, she's 5 years older. I have a younger brother who's 10 or 12 years younger than me. I think I would say that I was always the most out of the 3, I wasn't as compliant. I was
Okay.
the one who, but not in a reckless way. You know what I mean? Like if somebody told me I couldn't do something, I was like, "Watch me." And I would do it and I would actually do exactly what I said I was going to do, but so it I think it pissed my parents off like initially cuz they were like no, like you have to listen and I was just like, "No, I don't." And then so I was the one that was always testing the limits,
So
but
did you ever get in any major trouble? Any arrests or anything like that or no?
No, I didn't get arrested. Like, okay, so I stole something one time from the store, but it was like a fake arrest.
Okay,
My
okay.
parents like told the cop, they're like, put her in handcuffs and arrest her. We need her to know, like, she can't do this stuff. It was like the only time I did it. And I did it because my friend was like shoplifting at the mall and she was like, you can steal anything. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, she literally had money on her that day. And I was like, why are you shoplifting if you have money? Like, it makes no sense. And I
Uh,
babysat at the time. So I was like, I don't need to shoplift. Like, I have money. So one day I just decided I was going to do it because
for
not
the
even because I
adrenaline
wanted,
rush?
huh?
For the adrenaline rush?
I just wanted to see what would happen. I
Okay.
don't know. I was just curious. I just wanted to see like is the shoplifting thing like all it's cracked up to be? Like why does my friend do it all the time? She like would do it all the time. So I did it once and when I got in trouble I'm like, this is stupid." So I was like, I don't need to do that.
Okay,
And it
good. Yeah.
wasn't fun getting in trouble, so I was just like, this is dumb. I'll
Oh,
just
no.
make money.
I agree. I got it. We went through a phase when I was, like 16 of stealing. It started off at, like, the Dollar Tree, like, taking stupid shit, and,
Yeah.
got a little out of control. I think we didn't even need like you said, we didn't even need it. We had money. We didn't really need we just did it for fun, kind of, because we
Yeah.
had a. It was like when you first get a car, so we're just driving around. We're just go, let's go to this store and see if we could. How much stupid shit we could steal. We would go to, you know how in the front of grocery stores like Acme or whatever, they leave the sodas, like the case of sodas. So we just go in there, take the
Yeah.
case of soda, and then run to my friend's car and put it in there, and he'd drive off, like just dumb shit like that.
Yeah, yeah, stupid. Yeah, ours was like Claire's Boutique. Like,
I remember
yeah.
Claire's, but is that even a? I don't even know if that
Yeah, yeah,
survived
it's
at the
like
mall.
plastic necklaces and shit,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. My
barrettes.
cousin worked there in the Christiana Mall. Okay.
Yeah.
Big news for the SMP world. Follicule has just dropped their new scalp pigment. It's bigger, better, and made with Hanafi Color Pigments, one of the largest pigment manufacturers in the world. Not only is this pigment backed by world-class expertise, but they are giving you more of what you need. That's right. Their new, bigger bottles mean you have enough pigment to do 20 to 25 sessions in just one bottle. And because you're part of the Daddy podcast community, we're offering you an exclusive deal. 15% off all pigments and aftercare products when you use the code DADDY at checkout. Take your SMP game to the next level with Follicule Pigments. Go to the Follicule website. Get it now.
Did you play any sports growing up?
Yeah, so I played softball. I
Okay.
played Let's say I played that when I was kinda young. I ran track for a year. I played sorry, played, what's that one?
Lacrosse?
No, it wasn't lacrosse,
Field hockey?
field hockey, yeah.
Okay.
I did field hockey. Oh, I was very musical as well, so, I played, like, string instruments, I sang in choir, I was in, like, a choir like oh, fun fact, so I went to school with Justin Guarini, who was, like, one of the first people that won The Voice.
I remember Justin Guarini.
Okay, crazy funny thing, um, so I was in choir class with him, and I had to sing for him when I was getting picked for, like, a women's, like, ensemble singing group in my high school. So I had to sing the national anthem for Justin Guarini. Yeah. It
He
was
was
cool
like
though.
2nd place of American Idol, right? Something like that.
Yeah, yeah, Kelly Clarkson won first and he won second. But also in my adult years, so in the Doylestown area is where he lives,
Mm.
and, so his kids were like, I don't know, I saw him at the YMCA a few years ago, and I was, like, talking to him in the parking lot. He's now, what is he? Like, he's on the Dr. Pepper commercial. He's little
Yeah, I
sweet.
saw that. That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. That's the last thing I seen him in. He was like a flying fairy or something, right?
Yeah, yeah, little sweet. That's what his name is.
Well, hopefully he's getting paid from it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I think he does like acting classes and stuff now, like online. But yeah, that was cool. So yep, musical stuff was
so
the
you
thing.
can sing. So you can sing. Good for
Yeah, I
you. Do you
I
sing to
don't
your
sing
kids?
like professionally or anything, but I can carry a good tune.
Okay, I can't. So I always like when people can sing. And, you're married, right? So I know we had talked
Yep.
about that. You're married.
So Ian and I have been married since 2010. So going on, and we were together 5 years before that. So we've been together like 19 years in total.
Wow,
Long
congrats.
time.
Congrats. And how many kids do you have?
We have one together, and then my oldest son, Ian's been in his life since he was 5. So my oldest son, like who's 24, yeah. So Ian's been around for a long time.
Okay. And does your older son does so they're both boys?
Yep.
Did he move down to Florida as well?
No, he's got a girlfriend and a job that he's trying. He's got a business that he's trying to start. So at the time that we were moving, he was wanting to come, but then he didn't want to leave his job. So yeah, he's still there and trying to figure out his future.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. He's
But we
still
we
young.
see him every month when we go up. We go up for like a week every month, and take our clients and check in on the shop up north. The Dermagrafix is my other shop in Doylestown. So we check on the shop and take clients and see our families, people in our family, and then we come back.
Do you drive or fly?
Oh, we fly, but I don't know these plane
That's what I was
crashes.
gonna get at. Yeah, we just had I mean, a plane crashed right in Philly, what, 5 days ago? Was that Friday or
Yeah,
Saturday?
It was Friday. Today's Wednesday. Yeah, so
What
So
the
we got like
fuck?
a lot of our friends that actually live in Philly were uploading videos and sending videos and stuff to us. It was crazy.
It was, and, I'm skeptical. I do think it was a plane, but now you see all these conspiracy theories, and
Yeah.
I like to look at them. I'm not saying I believe them, but I do like to look at them. I'm a sucker for
Yeah,
that.
well, I mean, that one I really I that one I think is genuinely plain, but it's just, what happened, I don't know.
Yeah.
It took off and then it, like, went straight
Wasn't
down.
that high. It wasn't that high, and it made
No,
like
it
an
just
8-foot
plummeted straight
hole.
down, like nosedived.
Yeah, and I don't know if you I like to look at the graphic stuff, so I go on Reddit. Instagram will blur everything, but I go on Reddit and you could see, like, a guy's foot, like, the bone hanging out. It's, like, cut
Oh my
off.
god.
There's a dead dude on, on the roof like this. He's just laid up on the roof, like, I don't he had to have been a passenger in the plane. But, yeah, you go in there, you could
Yeah,
see,
because
like,
there was
body
only one
parts.
person on the ground that was killed, and they were in a car.
Yeah, but there right now, there's a little kid, he's 10 years old, his dad said, "Protect your sister," or whatever. They were in the Dunkin' Donuts across the street, and he's got
Yep.
a piece of metal sticking out of his head,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I think
yeah, I
he's
saw.
moving now. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah,
It
he's
really is
I think
terrible.
they didn't expect him to recover, but I think he is now.
Yeah, it seems like that, yeah, so I really
Yeah.
hope he does. Yeah, it's terrible, but I know, I
Yeah,
think the, plane industry, if you're gonna buy a plane ticket, probably a lot of hesitancy now, might be cheaper though, right?
I don't know. I feel like prices haven't changed. I mean, we book flights all the time. They haven't changed. If anything, they've actually looked like they're going up.
What? For real?
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll look
Maybe not
again
on
and see.
American.
Yeah, I guess not.
Yeah, okay.
Is
So
that is
do you have a designated place you stay when you go up there?
Yeah, so we stay with family when we go up.
Okay,
That way we
okay.
get a chance to see them and, you know,
Yeah, 'cause
hang
that
out and, we'll have dinner with them and stuff after we get done work and, so it's cool.
do you fly into Philly, or where do you
Mhm.
fly into?
Yeah, I fly into Philly.
And how far, is your location from the airport?
About an hour.
Okay, okay. My shop is about 45 minutes from the airport.
Yeah, so I'd say like my if going straight to my shop is about an hour, if we go to like where our family is or where we stay, it's like 40-45 minutes.
Okay, okay. Yeah, you really are really kinda local.
Yeah.
Um, and why did you so how long were you in the Doylestown location, and then why did you end up moving?
Well, let's see. I've been my shop has been in Doylestown. Let's see. I started my shop. Well, we've been in business 20 years this April. 20 years.
Really? So what did you do before PMU SMP stuff? Before you tell us the other crap?
PMU.
So you've been doing PMU for that long? Wow.
23 years.
I guess microblading has been around pretty long, right? Has it
Well, I
not?
was doing machine work. I was never really a microblading girl. I did it for a little bit, but I've always been a machine girl since day one.
Meaning you
So,
do the shading?
yeah,
Okay.
so I've always done permanent makeup with a machine um since day one.
And
And
what are the
I've
different, I guess, what are the different services you offered back then and versus now?
So back in the beginning, it was like brows, eyes, and lips. And this crazy shit right here was we were practicing doing SMP, believe it or not, but we didn't call it SMP. And it was done with a flat needle.
Oh,
And we
shit.
only did it in scars. And it was because the hair so we unfortunately this doctor died recently in Philly. He was like top hair surgeon of Philly for many years, Dr. Glatt, Dr. Paul Glatt.
Oh, he
And
died? I
he
I didn't
do you
know
know
that.
him?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he actually died this past year. We had a business working relationship with him for 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's always on all the
So
commercials.
when I moved back to Pennsylvania in 2003.
Okay.
So like I basically graduated high school and my family moved to Florida and then I graduated in 97 and then I lived in Florida for like 5 years. I hated it and then I was like I'm going back up north. So when I did, I was trying to like I didn't have a job. Like, I was working in Florida. So I had learned permanent makeup in Florida and I had my aesthetics license in Florida. And so when I went up north back to PA, I was trying to network with doctors and like I started my own business, but I didn't really have any customers yet. So what I did was I networked with a lot of different doctors and like salons and stuff. And what I did was I gave myself for a whole day to like 5 different places. And one of the places that I networked with was Dr. Glatt's office. And Dr. Glatt would refer his patients to us. And I would say, like, maybe after like 4 years of, maybe it was like 2 or 3 years of me making rounds at like all these offices. And I got so busy doing my permanent makeup because nobody really had permanent makeup services back then. It was like very few people. So I ended up becoming pretty popular. I was like 25 at the time. I was really popular at permanent makeup. And I got so busy at these places, I was actually losing money driving to them, all these different places every day because they were kind of far. Like I'd drive an hour here, an hour there. I'm like, oh, that's a procedure. So what I decided to do was open my own little place. And I started asking those people to just send their customers to me
Okay.
instead. So that's what we did. And so Dr. Glatt's office used to send his customers to us. And I'll never forget, he sent somebody for a strip scar. I didn't even know what that was. They kept using that word. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
And so they were like, yeah, just put some pigment in it. I'm like, how? Like, what? They're like, just make it look like hair. Well, I'd been doing hair strokes with flat needles and eyebrows way back then, y'all. People are just now starting to figure out that flat needles do hair strokes today. Well, that's something that we were doing a long time ago. But anyway, different story. So we were putting hair strokes in scars. We didn't know any better. And so we were just like doing these little
Mhm.
these little like mechanical looking lines in these scars. And it did something. It didn't, it wasn't
Better
like,
than exposed skin?
yeah, it was better than exposed skin. It wasn't, by any means what we're doing today, but I didn't know that it was going to become SMP someday.
Wow. Wow, that's interesting. I mean, I'm sure the guys were
Probably
still
looks like shit
happy, right?
today.
You think so? Well, they could always get.
Probably.
Yeah. Were you
Probably.
only doing 1 session on the scars?
I might have been like doing two because I like it was one of those things where even back then I was really very open with my clients. I was like, listen, I've never done this before. The doctor wants me to do this. So we're gonna do some and see what it looks like. It's probably, this or that. I might need to adjust the color. See, we were used to doing eyebrows where if the eyebrow didn't heal the right color, you would do like an adjustment on the second session. So in my mind, I was thinking, all right, I'm gonna do these hair strokes and I don't know because it's scar tissue. I knew enough about scar tissue because I had been doing scars, that scar tissue won't heal the same way because it's very white and it doesn't have the blood flow and the beta carotene and the melanin. So I thought these may come back kind of gray looking instead of the color that I need it to be. And so, I was like, yeah, you'll have to come back probably. And so he came back and then we just, see, he was fine. I mean, he knew it was kind of like experimental, if you will. And so,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
good. So they're
Yeah.
so
So we
they're
just did
open
that.
for, to be the guinea pig.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scars today, I mean, are still a pain in the ass. I was working on one, yesterday, and it was from 1990, and, they don't always accept the ink the first session. I tell people it's kinda like, meat tenderizing the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to use a little more pressure, and it just doesn't absorb the ink, but the second session usually is pretty good. It doesn't
You know
really
what
give me
else
a
works
problem.
really good? If you think about it, one of the reasons that scar tissue doesn't absorb so much, you're lacking the blood. Like if it's a white scar, it's very tensile and tight.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like aerating the lawn. Like I remember my dad used to like rent a machine and aerate the lawn. I don't know what the hell he was doing, but there was like holes in the lawn. It's kind of like that. Like if you were to needle through it with just a plain
Like a dry
needle,
needle.
yeah, just dry needling and just do that a few times or maybe two sessions. You're really just breaking up the scar tissue and introducing blood flow. You'll get a little bit better color in the scar and you'll soften the scar tissue. It might even flatten a little bit. And for depressed scars, they might even like raise up and become a little bit like the surrounding skin. And then when you go in and tattoo it, it receives a lot better.
So you're saying, like, have people come in and instead of using ink on the first session, use no ink and just kinda
Yeah.
aerate it?
Yep, and but
I
I would
like the
need the
analogy, by the
whole
way.
scar, the whole thing, not just the areas that you plan to, implant a dot, but, the whole scar itself, and, for about 3 to 5 days, it would still look pretty red and maybe even like a little raspberry color,
Mhm.
but once that heals up, the body will break that up and digest some of that fibrous tissue in the next several weeks, and it tends to flatten out a little bit.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. What you're saying makes total sense. The problem is it'd be hard for me to convince people to come in and me not use the ink and have them pay. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not, we don't have that problem. We generally will do, like, it's kind of like doing pro cell treatments. You know what those are, right?
No, it's pro cell.
Pro cell is microchanneling. It's a, like, I don't know if I can say her on here. Taryn Quintieri, she's one of the reps for Pro Cell.
I know who she is.
Um, yeah, so Pro Cell is a brand, but there's other brands, and there's other ways you can do it. You can use tattoo needles to do it, like a nice large magnum needle or a round shader, and just work that whole area. You can numb the scar. You can even build it into your price. If you feel like this is like what needs to happen, you just tell your client this is the treatment plan. It comes with, 2 sessions of this spaced this many weeks apart, and you just build it into your price.
It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea, because it probably ends up being a better result.
It is, and we even pair it with things like red light therapy. So it helps to do like that cellular healing at a much deeper level, and a
Okay.
dermal level. So we'll have them do that, and there's a lot of things that you can offer to the client, and even build it into their price package.
No, that is
So
it.
long as they have a good why, if you really believe in it, or if you actually see the result, and you believe in it, then it's kind of it's a no-brainer, when you can present that to them. We've actually treated burn victims as well. Like when you needle through contractures, which is really the same issue that you get with a strip scar, is that you're getting that contraction from the tightness of the skin. You're really just loosening that up. It's just too tight. And the flexibility is what you need. You need the pockets in that tissue to hold and receive ink. And also the blood flow is extremely important because it helps it to heal. It brings nutrients to the area, and it brings color to the scar.
Agreed, agreed. And for people listening, when she says the why, that I thought that's really important to highlight because when you are doing consultations and you're talking to these people, and if you want to make a sale, I always ask them, why do you want to get this done? Because
Mm.
if they're just like, la 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 la, giving you some bullshit answer. Why, if their why is strong enough, they're like, well, I'm tired of looking at my bald head, or I want to meet a new person, a spouse, a wife, a boyfriend, whatever the case might be. If their reason is strong enough, if their why is strong enough, then they're more likely to do it. You want to dig into their pain. I just keep asking them questions. I just keep digging into it and make them talk about it. I don't like being under fluorescent light. I wear a hat, all this. I'm wearing a hair system, and then you make them feel that pain while you're talking to them, they're more likely to buy from you.
And if you have a client that's already wearing a hat, I mean, what's really another couple months of wearing a hat to go through the needling process, right? You know, you waited this long. I mean, what's another couple months? And you'll know that you're done needling when you start seeing some natural redness come back to that skin, or some natural skin color if it doesn't look as white. So before and after photos are going to be really helpful for the artist to judge, like, okay, when am I ready to tattoo? How do I know that I've gotten some progress? Between needling and red light therapy, those are two very important things to add prior to. And to explain to the client, you can't do this afterwards. I know some people might agree, but I think I think there was a presentation where they spoke that you can do needling after SMP. I would caution that, because when your needles go in on top of pigment that's already been healed, you can displace that pigment.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
absolutely can. Like, the pigment is an object that sits in the tissue. If you drive that pigment deeper, you could place
It,
it a little bit too deep. You could also transfer microparticles and just blur out the dot a little bit. So I personally, will it affect the SMP result that much? Probably not, but slightly enough to where it can dull the crisp impressions. And if you are an artist that works really diligently to create that very crisp effect, it takes a lot of skill to do that. Why would I want to ruin that afterwards? So I would tell my client, I have to do this at the beginning of your treatment, not later. They're like, well, I just want to do the SMP, and if it doesn't look good, then we'll treat the scar later. No, we'll do it my way because I'm the expert,
Eh,
you know?
good. Write that down, people. No, that's good. That's really good information. That's really good. Thank you for sharing that.
What's up, SMP world? It's Chris with the Blends Protein. A lot of people are switching over to our products. The most realistic results are being put out using Blends products. These products were made for artists by artists. We want to make you a believer. Here's 20% off your first purchase. Use Dattie podcast. Blends for the most natural results in the world.
When but I want to back up. I just want to back up a little bit to know more about Valerie. So, right from high school, I mean, did you have a different job? Like when you were down in Florida, were you working? Did you do any other type of work?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been in, the personal care beauty industry. I started out as a makeup artist.
Okay,
I wanted to work in the department stores. I loved those like uniforms. It was like being a flight attendant, but for makeup.
I know what you're
I
talking
loved
about.
the look.
What's the big
And
one now? Sephora.
yeah, I mean, people, the department stores are still there, but Sephora and Ulta have really like taken over, right?
Yeah,
The one-stop shop of every brand you can think of. And that's, you don't have somebody like running up to you trying to spray you with perfume and
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So, things have evolved. But in general, I started out as a makeup artist and, you know, that was really interesting to me as an older teenager. And so I ended up getting a job and then they put me through like, some, little like department store makeup schools. They would send me to Miami and go to places where I would get to, learn. And that was pretty cool. I loved these trips. They paid for it, put me up in like nice hotels. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I would come back with like hundreds of dollars worth of like products. And, it was cool. I got to dress professionally and learn all these like chic makeup tips. But soon after, I started to look into something a little bit more deeper, a little bit more meaningful. People would come to me with their skin issues, and I wanted to learn how to fix those, not cover it with makeup. So
Okay.
then I learned about what it was to be an esthetician. So I went to school to be an esthetician, and I worked in med spas and I worked for plastic surgeons, doing that kind of work. But my very first job working as an esthetician, I'll never forget. I Nobody would tell me back then where to go to school. I lived in this tiny town in Florida called Vero Beach. That's where my family lives, and I stopped at all these salons, and they were threatened by me. I was young. I was cute. I was going in. These old hags were like answering the door, and they were like, I was asking them like, "How do you become an esthetician?" Like, I don't know. Like, where do you go? Like, I literally had no clue. There was no computer for me to Google this shit. So I would stop in all these places and they would just like toss their hair back like they were better than me. And they would just be like, yeah, you have to go to school for that. I'm like, no shit. Like where? Like what school? Like, and they're like, I'm like, do you teach it here? Like, I didn't know. And they were like, no, you have to go to like a beauty school. I'm like, right, where? So this old lady, she was old to me, right? I had to have been like, God, I would think I was like 19. This lady was just like, I don't want to tell you where you can go. You can just look in the phone book or something like that. And I was like, okay, whatever, bitch. I got my freaking license. It's not even that big of a deal. It's an esthetician. It's not like, calm down. So I went and I got it. But here's the thing, before I did, I went to this one salon. It was a salon and day spa, and the owner was really sweet to me, and she really liked me, and she would love to hire me for as a makeup artist. Thought I was a really great makeup artist, but she didn't have enough work for me. But if I had my esthetician license, she would hire me. And I was like, well, that's why I'm here. I want to know where I can get it. I keep asking and no one will tell me. This woman told me where I could get a license. She told me where I could go to school. So I was like, thank you. When I get my license, I'll be back. So I go, I get my license. Do you know I show back up the same place? I came back. I think the schooling program was like 9 months or a year. I finished it in 6 months. I come back and I was like, do you remember me? And she goes, yeah. I go, I got my license. And she was so shocked. She was like, I didn't think that you were actually going to go through with that. I didn't think you were actually going to do it. She goes, I didn't think I'd see you again. And I was like, well, here's my license. I literally had it with me. And I was like, she hired me on the spot because of that.
Surprise, bitch! I'm
I
here.
know.
That's great. That's great. But she actually followed through.
Yeah, she liked the follow through and the dedication. And I'll tell you what, like those other people are like so old, they're probably dead now, but they like
They're
it was
haters.
crazy. They were gatekeeping. They didn't want to tell me where I could go to school because they didn't want me to be their competition. Isn't that the craziest thing?
Yeah, I can see their point of view, but it's also a little ridiculous. It's like, come on, just help this kid out.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. It was so dumb.
let the new generation come in and start doing stuff. So doing the esthetician stuff, do you think that really helped you to prepare for like your PMU career?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I will tell you, all the estheticians that I ever teach, they always do the best in the permanent makeup program.
Do they? Why do
Yeah.
you think that is?
Well, one, they have knowledge of skin and they know how to touch people. They know how to apply and remove things with regard to having self respect. They know how to, they're good salespeople. They know how to have the proper language. They can explain things using professional terms. They know how to, to comment on anatomy and look for certain characteristics, problematic features. They know about anatomical placement of makeup, eyebrows, lips, and they have an eye for those things already because that's something that they're trained to do. Then on top of that, they have it's their bedside manner, I guess, if you want to call it. They know how to walk people through processes. They're used to explaining to people how to prepare for a treatment, how to take care of a treatment. So usually there's all of that aspect, but then they also have good dexterity with their hands because they're doing extractions around careful areas like under eye, like milia. Sometimes they even use like hypodermic needles, or I know not like the ones that work with doctors can use like needles and stuff to scoop out some, you know, deep seated whiteheads. They're using comedone extractors to get blackheads out. So they're usually, even with waxing and lash lifts and tints, they have to use fine motor skills to be very particular about shaping. So they're much better at maneuvering machines and they understand the particulars of that. So usually estheticians are very good with with the permanent makeup skills, much like a barber to SMP. They already understand facial shapes, they understand, what aging does with hair. They know the different conditions of the scalp. They're used to working with different hair textures and they have an eye for certain things, even down to the color and whatnot. So it's not the same thing. The one thing I will tell you with estheticians and barbers are they have a completely different understanding and training in terms of safety. They know not to double dip when it comes to like creams and lotions, but they don't understand quite the concept yet of like real cross contamination with blood because they're not trained to work with blood.
True.
So actual like medical bloodborne pathogen standards are is different and they learn it just fine, but
I
that's the one area they don't know.
I agree, and in my experience with the estheticians, they're definitely better communicators.
Yeah.
They can explain the process, and they're used to touching skin and being, not being too aggressive,
Yeah, they're
right?
not afraid to touch people and you have to know where to touch people and there's definitely an approach to that, you know, for sure.
So good for you. So you did that for about 5 years, you said, and then you came up. Were you doing any esthetician stuff when you came, back to Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I was. I was. When I initially moved back, I was only doing permanent makeup and I was working out of a doctor's office. And I think I was there for like a year and a half. And I said to him that I really missed doing the aesthetics side of things. And there happened to be a plastic surgeon the next building over who was looking for somebody doing aesthetics. And I said, so if it's okay with you, I'd like to do the aesthetics at his office and I'll do permanent makeup at your office. I thought that was pretty fine, and just knowing that I can trust myself, I'm a person that would trust me
Uh-huh.
because I know that I won't do something shady, right?
Yeah.
But this guy was such a shisty guy that he didn't trust that. He was like, "Well, I don't want you taking the permanent makeup clients over there." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm not. And I'm not going to bring his skincare clients here. Like, I'll do skin there. We'll do permanent makeup here." He goes, "You have to choose." And I was like, "I have to choose." He was like, "Right now."
Oh, shit.
He goes, right. This is actually a crazy story. I forgot about this. He goes, you have to choose right now. And I was like right this second. Like I have to talk to my husband. Like he's like, no, right now. And I was like, "Mm, okay. I was like, all right, well, I don't see the problem. He's like, you have to choose right now because you have to choose either here or there because you can't do both.
What did you do?
I go, well, he's actually going to pay me 10% more in commission than what you're paying. And he was like, so is that it? That's your final decision? And I was like, I didn't say that. I was just mentioning that. Like, did you want to give me like a counter? He's like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. So I still had clients on my schedule. He owed me like $1,200 for work I have already done. I had to take this guy to court. I had, when I say paying me, I was 1099. So I was technically my own business,
Mhm.
but I brought my own supplies. You know, I just went in and did the clients that they provided me, but I had all my own forms and everything. And I had this little like filing cabinet I would bring around with me, like a little handheld, file sorter. Well, it had all my clients' records in it. I came in the next day to grab, some of my stuff, and I thought I was coming in to tattoo. He canceled my tattoos. He took all the files out of my filing bin. Like I was so trusting that I just left all my shit there. Like I was like, I was honest with you. Why would I take my stuff? Like I already told you, like, these were my plans. And, I gave you the opportunity. Like I wasn't trying to hide anything. This motherfucker came and took all my stuff. He like stole all my client records and everything. And I had to tell him, I was like, listen, for liability reasons, because I do pay my own insurances and whatnot, I need to have my client files. So he went in and whited out all their addresses and phone numbers because he knew that these people would want to contact me and he didn't want me to be able to contact them. So back then it was all paper form. So he like white out over their addresses and phone numbers so I couldn't contact them anymore. What a loser.
What the fuck? That
Yeah.
dude was nervous. He was
Yeah.
you were naive into thinking like, "Hey, everyone's trustworthy like me, and they're not,
Yeah.
a shady asshole."
Yeah.
And he yeah, sounds
So
like
he also it was just before
Did you get
Christmas.
your money?
Huh?
Did you get your money that he owed you?
No, it was just before Christmas. And so I filed a small claims against him because he owed me like almost 12 or $1,500. And I needed that money for Christmas. And so I went and I spent, I don't know, 50 or $100 at the local court. And I filed a suit against him and I took him to court for my paycheck. And do you know that he created a document and he signed it with my signature, and I couldn't even argue it because like I mean like what are we going to compare against? And he was like basically the whole thing like teetered on, did you sign this document? The question from the court was, did you sign this document when you started working there? And the document said that I would stand behind any of the work that I did. There was one client that got tattooed somewhere else, not even by me, and he lasered her lip and he removed some of her tattoo pigment. I had nothing to do with this. He came to me one day and said, "Hey, could you touch it up? How much would you charge me?" And I was like, "Just cover the supplies." I was like, "I don't know, give me $50. I'll order the pigment because I didn't have the same pigment." I was like, "I'll order the pigment and I'll just touch up the little spot for you." He's like, "Well, how much would you charge me for it?" I'm like, "Dude, like $50." I wasn't even like charging him.
Yeah.
Do you know that in the they came up with all these reasons as to why they needed to pay somebody else, which is why I couldn't get my paycheck money. And she was one of the people. Was that if any of the people that I had last worked on needed a touch up, he needed to pay somebody else to do it. And this lady's lip was one of them. I'm like, how does that apply to me? He's like, well, because you promised that you would do it. Now I need to find somebody else. I'm like, you're the one that fucked up her lip. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't even tattoo this lady. Anyway, so yeah, crazy,
Jeez.
crazy,
And
crazy.
so you never even got the 12 to $1,500.
I
Is
never
this
got it.
is this guy still in business?
I don't know, but he's ugly, so it doesn't matter.
Well, you should, maybe we'll make this a clip. We could call him out now. But
Yeah,
that's fucked up. That would bug the shit. The principal would just piss me off,
yeah.
the whole thing. Now, how long did you work at the other place for after that? And did you have to see this person?
I never saw him again after that. accepted like when he would like advertise and he just kept getting like bigger and bigger. He was just like gigantic. Um no, I worked at the other place for maybe like 2.5 years. And the plastic surgeon was really cool. I told him when I went in to interview with him, I told him that I wanted to open my own business, but I wasn't ready yet. I just wanted to put that on notice, like just so you know, like I am an independent contractor, but I still want to open like my own shop someday. And I just want you to know, are you okay with that?
And
So he
so
was
that way
fine
they
with
would
it.
be cool with, like, they're not gonna be shocked, "Oh my god, Valerie's leaving," you know, or, "Oh my god, she's trying to steal clients," and all that sort of thing.
Well, I would never steal clients. I actually opened my business with $500 in the bank and not one of my own clients. Well, actually,
Nice.
that's not true. I might have had like maybe 20 of my own clients, but they weren't like people that I took from anybody else's business.
Okay. Through your own
Yeah. And
marketing.
that was just a respect thing. So the other doctor got it. Like he understood and I told him and I was like, "Hey, listen, I found a place. I'm opening my own thing. I can come here by appointment when you need me. But I'll be focusing on my business at this point." And that's what I did. So when Dermagrafix first started, I had very little clients. There were sometimes weeks, like one whole week where I didn't have a customer and I would just like go and network and market and you know, that's what I did back then.
And that's what you should do, people. If you're listening to this and you're a new SMP artist or PMU artist, don't just sit around and bitch and cry and look on Instagram. Market yourself.
Yeah.
Approach people, network. Pay even if you only have 20 bucks, pay 20 bucks and boost a post on Facebook or something. You know what I mean?
I would go around to tattoo shops and I would bring my portfolio, which was like a scrapbook that I made. And then I would print out brochures that I made myself and business cards. And my whole thing was like I would how I marketed was I would tell people back then, I was like, don't send your customers to me if you don't like the work that you see. But see, I already knew that my work was like the best permanent makeup that anyone had seen in the area because I was young and I was hip and I had all the best stuff and I'd done a lot of investing in my own training and I was really, really good at what I did and half of this other stuff was like really botched looking. So I was like pretty confident going in. I was like, oh, they're not going to see anything like this. So I would just like, humbly open my book and I'd be like, well, this is some of my work, just but they would look at it and even tattoo artists were like, this is some of the best permanent makeup I've ever seen. And this was obviously a long time ago, but I'm sure what we have today is much better than what I had then. But
Hey,
for
so
what it
what?
was,
That
it
that
was
was a smart idea. That's a solid strategy.
yeah, so we just, ask people just don't, they were like, well, what do you want? I'm like, I just want referrals. That's really all I want. So if you don't like this work, then don't refer to me. But if you like it, I'll leave you some of my business cards and my brochures. And that's how I really grew my business.
Great, great. That's smart. And so then eventually you open up your own location after that, after you're done with this, doctor. Was he a plastic surgeon?
Hmm.
Okay. So you're done with the
He was
plastic
a
surgery.
reconstructive plastic surgeon.
Okay.
And I did skincare at his office and I did permanent cosmetics. And when I opened my shop, I still worked for him, but I told him, I said, "Hey, listen, how about we do this? How about do the permanent cosmetics at my shop because I'm not going to do skincare there. And if I do, I'm not going to take your clients. How about I just take your skincare clients at your place? All the permanent makeup we'll do at my shop." And he was like, "That's fine. That's great." And we did that for a while until I got busy enough to where I was like, yeah, I don't, you know,
You
it's
don't
better
need
for
it.
me to just do my own thing.
Yeah, yeah, because then you don't have to give him any cut, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so and then is that when you opened up the Doylestown location, or where did you have, like, a small shop
No,
before
so
that?
I had a much smaller shop. I sent you a link to my Doylestown shop, and there's actually like a walking, like a 3D map you can like tour through the inside. I don't know if you had a chance to look at
Yeah, I
the
looked at it.
inside.
It's really nice, by the way.
Thank you. It's a pretty big spot. We didn't start out like that, and today I would say we probably still have too much space. Um, But when I first started out, we had a space that was about 600 square feet. And we had one treatment room and one waiting room and a shared bathroom with another business. So we started in Warminster, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And Yep. So Warminster, because it was a much more affordable city, the rent
Yeah.
was pretty low, and that was what felt safer to me. And at the time, my existing husband was cheating on me.
Oh,
So
sorry.
well, he was dumb anyway. I mean, so anyway, so he was really dumb. So it was all like this crazy time, right? So like I was transitioning from the doctor's office to my new space. I didn't really have customers. All my family was in Florida, and I get this space, which to me was a lot of money. It was like $550 a month, which that was before my utilities and everything. And my landlord was terrible with like insulating the windows. So like my heat bill for this tiny little shithole was like $200 or $300 a month. It was crazy.
Damn.
Yeah, it was nuts. So I mean, if you want to include that in the rent and all that stuff. So that's what I was paying. And then I found out, like, I already knew things weren't good between my husband and I for like a couple of years, and I wanted to leave, but like it was never the right time, and I just hated him. So I was
Sorry.
I did. I really, like, I think what it was is like when the person has like major issues and like you're trying to like help, or you try to like be understanding, and you're trying to like let him grow up or get whatever out of his system. I don't know. I don't care anymore. But at the time, I was just like, I kept putting myself on hold, but it was okay because I was like focusing on other things. And so I get this shop, and one of my neighbors comes to me and she's like, "I think your husband like brought a girl over." And she had like,
Oh,
I swear to
shit.
God, listen, everybody, all right, first of all, I'm 45 right now. This was when I was 25. I was freaking hot as shit. And this guy was banging some girl with no teeth. She literally had like meth mouth, okay? And guys, like, no. Okay. No,
What an
no.
idiot.
No, she
Why?
was married, she lived in my neighborhood, her husband he was, like, really this, like, really awkwardly tall guy that also, like, was, like, kinda chubby, and he had, like, a lot of acne scars, God bless his soul. He was probably really sweet inside, and she was just horrible. But I guess, something happened between them, and anyway, I found out about that, but I already was planning on leaving him anyway. So that was, like, the straw that broke the camel's back. He was actually an abusive guy as well. Yep.
Like
So,
he hit you?
he never hit me, but he would like shove, push, smash things, throw things. He
Okay.
had bipolar disorder.
Okay.
So,
Need a
yeah,
little
so
anger
he would
management?
yeah, it's funny because usually those situations happen when you come from a situation growing up at home like that.
Very
My
true.
dad was never like that to my mom.
Mhm.
So, but I did get married very young. I got married, I think I was 20.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Now was that guy, your first husband? I mean, did you meet in high school?
I met
No?
him in Florida. Go
Okay.
figure.
Okay. Okay. And so did he move up to
PA.
Pennsylvania with you?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So, yeah, so those things, it wasn't healthy, it wasn't good. I already knew, like, we'd been going to counseling and all that kind of stuff for a while, like church stuff. I was like, he smokes weed. I was like, maybe I'm just like a prude. Maybe I need to smoke weed too. Like maybe I'm too focused, and he's like, maybe I need to chill. So like I was like, all right, I'll smoke weed with him. How about that? Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm too like sh- you know so I was like, all right, I'll smoke with him. And so, I was like, well, that's not it. I was like, maybe I need to drink. Maybe he drinks. Maybe I need to drink. So I was like, all right, I'll drink with him. That wasn't it either. And I was like, what is it? And I literally got to the point where I really thought that I just wasn't pretty enough.
What the
Seriously. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, I have no, like, I like myself.
Yeah.
I, but when you're 25, like you're in your prime. Like,
Yeah.
what? What was I thinking? And this guy said to me, like, I'll never forget. He actually said to me, when I went to go leave him, he's like, "Do you really think somebody's gonna want you with your baggage?" And I was like,
What
"What?
baggage?
What baggage? I just got my own business. I got my like I come from a good family. Like I keep myself nice. I'm a very loyal person. Like I'm a good wife. I'm a good mom. Like I don't know what baggage we're referring to, but I didn't actually even get phased by it. I actually kind of giggled to myself. I didn't even explain that to him. I was just like, "Oh, okay." And I just like let him think that that's like,
He was
"Oh yeah,
right.
how am I going to move on?" Literally before I even moved out, I actually met Ian.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, so and we just took it very slow. Like we dated for 5 years, but I remember like the first year that we dated, like I wouldn't like we didn't even Ian and I didn't even kiss for like the first like 3 months that we were talking. I was just like, "Guy, I'm going through shit. Like don't even try me.
It's
Keep it over
probably
there."
a smart move. That's wild, that's wild. So, do you even, talk to him anymore? Have you seen him? I guess it's your son's dad. So do you
Yeah, he's he's done some healing, but he's doing much better. He's remarried, he's got a kid and stuff, and he keeps to himself, but
you know, do you
he's still everybody has their own demons, but he just, I just knew for me that that was a really unhealthy situation, and it was just never gonna work. We were just two different people on two different paths. I didn't. He was clearly dealing with some like childhood trauma, and I couldn't fix that. I had to learn. I learned early on that you can't help somebody through their troubles. Like they have to do it on their own, and I needed to take care of myself. So I was just like, you know what, I got to do me. You got to figure out you. I can't fix whatever this is. And I certainly can't be like the victim. And the number one reason that I left, this is the main reason I left. We got into some kind of argument one day, and we were in our bedroom, and he grabbed me by my shoulders and he like threw me up against the wall. My head hit the wall. And just as that happened, our son walked into the room and he saw that. And I was like, motherfucker, this kid is not going to grow up thinking that this is how you treat women. And so that was like the day that I was like, yep, this is done. I'm definitely done. Then the neighbor, so like I was actually already in the process. And then the neighbor came and told me her little news about some meth chick coming. She I don't know that she actually did meth, but, like, if I had to guess.
did you confront him about the girl, the cheating?
Yeah, I did, but I don't think I actually started it. I think well, maybe I did. I think I said something like, "Do you have anything that you wanna, like, share with me?"
Mhm.
And I think I said something like that. And he was like, "Well, I met someone." And I was like, "Oh my god, is he really going to seriously be honest with me? Let's
Oh,
sit down."
oh,
So like, I thought he was going to actually like be like honest and tell me. I was like, "Wow, this is going to be wild, right?" Like, so I was like, "All right." And so he like sits down and he tells me, he's like, "I met somebody, but it's just she's just like a friend, but like," and I was like, "All right, then why are we having this conversation?" Like, "You met somebody, it's a girl, cool, great
mm,
story."
mm,
So he was just like, "No, but it's just a friend." I'm like, "Right, so why are we having this conversation? Like, you're kind of like, I
mm,
don't know." And then he was like, "Well, like, I just know that you would probably be upset if, like, I had a friend that was a girl." I'm like, "You have girls that are friends already. We don't ever have this conversation." And I think, so I was like, "Did you fuck her?" And he's like, "No, like, no, like, I'm married." And I'm like, "You have to tell me that you're married, like, obviously." I was like, "Oh, okay, then again, why are we having this conversation?" And I literally got up and I walked away, but I already knew that he was lying. So I was like, "Oh, so
so
I
he
thought
never admitted it, he never admitted
more."
it.
Yeah, just totally
Mm.
lied,
Oh,
and
well,
that's okay.
sounds like you got out of a situation. Sounds like your life improved.
When it comes to scalp micropigmentation, you need tools you can trust. That's where InkU SMP products come in. Jade needles are designed for precision and durability, giving you consistent, flawless results every time. Pair them with InkU pigment, a rich, long-lasting formula your clients will love. Keep things smooth with InkU butter, perfect for soothing and protecting the skin. And finish strong with antimicrobial foam cleanser for a clean, worry-free healing process. Ready to take your SMP game to the next level? Visit InkUcare.com today. InkU SMP products are made for artists by artists.
And getting married at 20 years old, I just don't see it ever really working unless you're super religious or in the military. And most of the military, the young military weddings don't work.
Well, we were super religious, and I'm just like, I have faith, but I'm not like super religious.
I mean,
Like,
like
I
the
don't know what that
Bible
was.
thumpers, like they're like hardcore Christian people.
Well, he was
Oh,
supposedly.
okay. Supposedly. Well, Sounds like he's not.
Yeah. So anyway, but he had the drinking problem, he had the anger problem, he had the cheating problem, he had the pot problem, right? So like he had all these problems, but like Jesus was his best friend. So I was like, yeah, okay. But I was young. It was like, it was like I just didn't, think that it was going to be what it was.
I like that you were open to, "Hey, maybe I gotta smoke weed," or, "Hey, maybe I should start drinking." I love that. I think that's genius. I support smoking weed and drinking people. Not excessively,
Right.
just for fun here and
So
there.
honestly, I like you I think if you're in a situation like that, like don't you sometimes maybe question like is it me? Am I too uptight? Is it something that I'm doing? Like do I just maybe need to like let loose? But really what it was is I had to be the responsible one all the time. Like there were times that like I would go to work and I'd come home and he was supposed to be at work, but he like called out. I'm like, well, why didn't you go to work today? And like we didn't make a lot of money, like we needed money. And so I was like, well, why didn't you go to work? And he'd be like, oh, yeah, my knees started hurting. But I would find out later that like he wanted to stay home and smoke weed.
Oh, I know a few people like that. I know a few people like that.
But
That
I
I
didn't know I didn't sign up for that. Like that's not
Yeah,
who I thought I married. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like
I
he didn't do stuff like that that I knew of when we were dating. So I was like, where is this coming from? Like he didn't ever lay a hand on me when we were dating. So I was like, this is like all so weird. It was just weird to me. Like he started to turn into like this person, or really what it was is maybe he's just started to let me see who he was. And then I started to realize I was like, this isn't the same person that I thought you were. And now that you're feeling ever so comfortable to show this all, it's, not okay.
Yeah, no, it's better you called it earlier. I call those people who act like that man children.
Mhm.
They might maybe he even wanted to stay home to smoke weed and play video games at the same time. Could have been that. I know people like this to this day who do shit like that.
And I think I
Unfortunately.
gave him some grace about that because I was like, what? In all fairness, we did marry young. I mean, he was only a couple years older than me, still young, right? My son, who's older than how old my husband was when we married, right? Like, I couldn't even see him getting married. He's too young and he's
Yeah,
24.
yeah.
So, I mean, I tried to look at it like that. Like, all right, like we were just not ready, and there's just too much expectation on a person. But at the same time, I would say that to give him like some space. And then I'd be like, yeah, but you're doing it, like to myself. And I'm like, yeah, I am doing this. So why can't you do it? Like that's the choice we made. We have a child, like, that has to come first.
One of the key secrets
Whatever.
to success is doing shit you don't wanna do. You have to wake up and do shit you don't wanna do so you can either maintain your current lifestyle or improve it, and a lot of people don't wanna do shit they don't wanna do. They
Yep.
can't suck it the fuck up and just do it. But if you
True.
wanna make it to the next level, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all that, Valerie. Thank you. Thank you for
Oh
sharing that.
yeah. I've talked about it before publicly. It's really, I mean, it was probably one of the hardest times in my life. Not necessarily the divorce and what he did, but not that. That was tough, but that was a different type of tough. I would say having to be a single mom, starting a business by myself, having no clients, doing all the networking. I had to pay for the divorce that I didn't cause. I had to pay for child support that he didn't pay. I had to pay for the bills that were left in my lap that he didn't want to pay. I had to do all that. And I didn't have any help from anyone. I didn't have parents nearby to watch my kid. There was no full time kindergarten. I had to, pay to put him in private kindergarten. And I always he ended up going to jail a couple times from not paying child support. Had multiple DUIs, house arrest for years. Had to blow into a breathalyzer to get a car started once he finally, I mean, it was just one thing after the next, constantly. Like I could never depend on him to be a dad for our oldest son. So, building the business was a really important thing. It was like do or die. My whole family lived in Florida. I was in Pennsylvania. So, yeah, I'm fucking proud for building my business because nobody helped me do it. I didn't take out a loan or anything. Like, I worked my ass off and I got good at what I did. And I was just like out of my way. I got shit to do. Like, I have a kid to raise, I got nobody to depend on. And unfortunately, that can also be a problem. It can be a problem because you get to this point where you don't need anybody. You don't need anybody. And I had to be careful also, like, in my current marriage, because Ian's a really good guy and I need to make sure that, like, he's needed. So I took several steps back. I took several steps back from a lot of the things that I was doing because I didn't want to be like this. I know that people are always like, oh, like, independent woman, like, like, I just like, that's cool and all, and I know that I can do that if I had to, but the truth is like, I don't fucking want to.
And it's
I don't want to
exhausting.
overpower, like,
Uh,
I don't want to outshadow and overpower my man. Like, I want to respect my man, and he needs to feel needed and important and like the powerhouse that he is. And my husband is extremely capable of many, many things. And I'm really, really fortunate to have such a good guy.
it sounds like you are. It sounds like you dodged a bullet, with the first one, and happy you got out of that, uh, after a couple of years. And then he stepped up to help raise your son too? Was he a part of your son's life?
Mhm. Oh yeah, since he was 5. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. So we married when my oldest son was 10. So we dated for like, he's been in his life since he was 5, but like we dated for a really long time. We were engaged for like a couple of years before we, tied the knot. So we took it nice and slow. We weren't like in a hurry, so.
No, that's good. And so once you okay, so all that stuff happens, you get divorced, you start the first shop. Uh, When do you decide, I guess, when do you expand and when do you move to Florida?
Oh, okay. So I had the shop in Warminster for 5 years.
Okay.
And I had an owner of a tattoo shop popped in my studio one day, and he happened to be in Doylestown. He was opening, or he had opened a studio in Doylestown, and that's always where I had wanted to have my business because that's where the plastic surgeons and that's where my clientele originally was from.
Okay.
So I originally started working in Doylestown, and I lived in Doylestown, but I started my first shop in Warminster, which was like 20, 25 minutes away. So I had the opportunity to rent space from him. He was like, "Oh, I have this studio. We'd love." He's like, "We have this whole second story suite. Like, you could have the whole thing." And I was like, "Really?" So I ended up leaving my shop and I moved my shop to Doylestown. And I was like on the second floor of a tattoo shop. Learned a lot of things from these guys. Made some good friends. But I grew as an artist, just learning from tattoo artists as well. So
Okay.
while it wasn't, I didn't have like an apprenticeship or anything from them, but I did learn bits and pieces along the way from them in conversation and watching and,
Just going
and
down there and hanging out and just
yeah, yeah. So I
observing,
learned some things
bullshitting.
and it definitely elevated my standards. But even the owner of the shop, like, he taught me that I needed bloodborne pathogens classes. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I had carpet in my first shop. Carpet. I was tattooing on sheets and towels like an esthetician would, because I was an esthetician. That's what I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Got
So,
to have an easily wipeable surface.
mm-mm. So and then I rented from them for almost 5 years. It was 2012 that I got the shop that I'm in now because I was pregnant with my youngest, and I was actually signing the lease the day I was being released from the hospital. So, so I had left the tattoo shop to open this studio in Doylestown, which was like a down the street. And it was a smaller space at the time. It was about 1,200 square feet, but it had like 2 rooms, a reception area. And I had like 3 tattoo stations. It was, and then we did like makeup and stuff like that in the front, like, designs and whatnot for permanent makeup. So we went there, and we were there in 2012 is when we opened that studio. And then in 2017, we expanded from 1,200 square feet to 3,300 square feet, where we have like 10 rooms and all this crazy shit. So
That's a big space, 3,300 square feet. That's a really
yeah,
lot.
well, it's bigger than my house. So so it's pretty big. But yeah, but a lot of the space we really should rent out, which we've, tried to do, but it's gorgeous space, but it's just hard to find the right people to put in there sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes you gotta be selective with who you put in there too, right?
Yeah, that's part of it. So when after COVID happened, it's like the turning point in a lot of people's lives. Um, Business was crazy booming. And in 2021, we decided that we were going to open a second location. And we were kind of thinking we should do it in Jersey, then New York, because it was near where we were. And we took a trip to Florida to go visit my family. And we were like, you know what? If we open a second location up here, we probably will never be able to leave because we'll be so busy. So why don't we open a second location in Florida? That way we could see our family and go back and forth. And, so we decided that we would build a house in Florida. I had already set up my business and, structured it to function without me. Um, I would still be at the shop often, but I cut back a lot for one reason I told you was just, personality wise, I thought it would be a good idea for me to just pull back a little bit from all that like heavy responsibility. It started to take over my life, but it also started to affect my health. I was diagnosed with endometriosis in 2016, and that started to become problematic. I had to have surgery, blood transfusions, all these crazy things. Um, so I started to realize that the amount of work that I was doing, I was putting in 12, 15-hour days sometimes. I was taking 6 clients a day, 5 days a week.
Damn. Damn.
Then I was taking some insane number of like 14 consultations a week. Yeah. On average, I would see about 40 to 50 clients a week between consults and actual appointments. I don't even know how I was able to do that, because today I don't do that. And I'm like, where did I have the time? I don't know. But I don't do that now. We don't even have that much business coming in to do that now.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
That was a thing, and it started to really wear on me to the point where I was not well. So I started to pull back from business that way, and so I went from 5 days a week plus running the business down to 3 days a week, so I could focus 2 days on running the company. And then I started to do those 2 days a week at home, and then I started to cut back even more, and then it got down to be where I only came in 1 day a week. So then I started, we really started to structure everything in the business where it could be done remotely. And that was also, I think that turning point was really after COVID. We implemented everything digital. We got rid of anything that was a piece of paper. Anything and everything was reevaluated through a new set of glasses. What can be done remotely? What can be done? Like, how can we streamline all of these processes? And so that's what we did for just about everything, and trained the staff that way as well. We empowered the staff more, gave them more say in things. It wasn't everything needed to be ran through Valerie as a filter. If everybody understood, what the process was and what the ultimate goal was, then I could trust them to make decisions as well. And if it got to a certain level, then they could run that by me. But that seemed to really work. And the other reason that I did that was because I had yet another business that I decided to build prior to COVID, and it was in motion during the time that I was scaling back my personal responsibilities of being forward facing at Dermagrafix, and that was Micropigmentation Educators. And that business had started in 2021, and that business was me writing curriculum, writing books, creating online courses, mainly to equip trainers in the PMU and SMP spaces. So
And
that is the
that's your
other reason.
focus now, right?
That is my focus now. Yeah. After 23 years of servicing clients and dedicating myself to structuring for staff and guiding them, I felt like those tools would be very helpful. Oh, and I had been teaching since 2007. So we had taught many, many students over the years. My space that we have has taught hundreds of students. So we thought that, providing this tool to others would really help our industry to align standards because it's kind of all over the place. So, having a good fundamental course and creating a standard. When I say standard, I mean a factual standard. I don't mean like Valerie's way of doing things or Ian's way of doing things. I'm not talking about an artist preference. I'm talking about facts. Like, we can't argue the facts of what an organic and inorganic pigment is, what a round needle is versus a flat needle, what pointillism or shading is. Like, these are facts. So we want our students to, be able to learn facts and not necessarily argue about how we do things. Whether you do, you know, black rain technique or whatever it is. I always use that as an example. But even in permanent makeup, we were having people who, what do they call it? Pixie dust eyebrows. And then somebody else calls it powder brows.
Or
And then
ombre.
ombre brows, nano pixel brows, right? Like
Mm.
it's this, right? It all means the same thing. It's a variation of shading, but it's like maybe the artist just does it with their extra special signature, the style that they do. That's a signature training that is different. Fundamental training is, do you understand how to shade? What are the ways that we do shading? You can do it with a liner needle and do whip shading. You could do circle shading. You could do mag shading as an example. So if I were to take shading and break it down into the facts, I could tell you that there's 3 ways to shade. Here they are. I'm not going to tell you exactly how you should do it. I'm going to tell you the different ways and how to do those. I'll let you become your own artist.
This is how I see it. This is what it looks like to me.
Yep, that's whip shading. Yep, yep.
So if someone is interested, because you're so knowledgeable and you have all this experience and you built your website, I looked at it, I saw how you have the curriculum lined up. You can't get to it, but I like how you have it outlined. So it's like I'm going to learn each different thing. I think that's smart instead of it being a mystery to everyone. Like, what the fuck has she got in there? That I like
Yeah, I
that.
mean, some of the lessons you can click on, not anything of like essential value, but some of so we've allowed you to like peek at some of them. There's some samples, so you can see what the graphics look like, what do the videos look like, how is the content sort of put together. Just if somebody wants to see if like it relates to their learning style.
Yeah. And so if people are interested in training with you, what do they need to do?
Well, they can train with us, my husband or I, at our Dermagrafix location. But really, our curriculum is really geared towards other trainers. So we're looking to still find other trainers in the United States who want to champion a standard with a 120-hour program that spans over 3 to 6 months. And we're looking at putting this curriculum into um, different states. Like there's some states that are interested in carrying our program and making it a standard. So I have friends that go to some of these congressional hearings and talk, like listen in and even contribute to some of the issues with tattoo pigments and tattoo standards. What I can tell you is at some point there will be more oversight unless the Department of Education is completely eliminated. But even still, I think self regulation is important. And in order for our industry to hold its value and longevity, in order for people to value our services, and in order for students to fully grasp what SMP is, which is a career, it's not a job, right? Then in order to do a career, you really need to understand that there's a certain amount of time that it takes to be good at your craft. And so an introductory course is not something that I personally advocate for. It's more of a larger fundamental, a longer format fundamental course, and then layer on as many other technique classes and workshops and specialty trainings to really hone your artistry so that you become the very specific artist that you dream of by cherry picking the certain people that you wish to learn from. But essentially, that foundation should be uniform as closely as possible amongst the leaders in our industry so that we're not misinforming the public, misinforming the students, or leaving people with giant learning gaps. Because this is what happens if we don't hit essential pieces of knowledge in the beginning, people start to get really good at their actual skill set, but then they don't know how to solve real life problems. They don't know how to grow. They start reaching a ceiling. I want to get the ceiling ripped off, build that foundation so that any other class that they do on top of that, they just grow and grow and grow and become more unique and specialized. This will also serve them in business as they start to carve out their unique niche. They're no longer a person that just does dots, they are a person that does it this way. They become their own master. And that to me is the fabric of tattooing, whether it be body art, permanent makeup, or SMP.
Hell yeah. That was good. That was really good. So what's your website and what are your socials? How can people find you?
Our website is getting rebuilt, so I'm currently pointing people only to the LMS website, which is mpeducatorsacademy.com. So mpeducatorsacademy.com. Socials are at micropigmentation underscore. I'm sorry. Hang on. What is it?
Micropigmentation underscore edu.
Edu. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you. And
yeah.
Facebook is .edu. So it's micropigmentation underscore edu on Instagram and .edu for
And you can
Facebook.
easily just Google her. You could go that's what I did. I just Googled it.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll
It'll
find it.
yeah, it'll pop right up. Okay, Valerie. Is there anything else you wanna say?
Yeah, I think the only thing I want to say about this company is, I've seen other companies that have sort of like a pro team, for example, of artists. That's not what we are. We're actually a publisher. We create the curriculum. We don't hire trainers. We don't consider them that they're on our pro team. We don't cherry pick people to be part of our program just because they have big socials or flashy videos or just do good work. We actually vet the people who come to us who are interested in carrying our program. So it's almost like we have authorized dealers, but they're really like authorized trainers. And our trainers have to go through a vetting process. So if you're interested in becoming a trainer, it's something that you've always been interested in doing, but you don't want to be tasked with developing a course yourself. We've done that. It comes with a very large textbook and online course segments, classroom structures, how to go about your day to day. Everything's really kind of been done for you, and you can still keep your own individual artistry as part of it. We are looking for these trainers, but we do have certain criteria. Like you have to have been practicing a minimum of 3 years, 5 years is preferred. You have to have liability insurance and all your personal and business licenses, updated bloodborne pathogens, and you have to prove to us on in paper document form how long you've been practicing and show samples of your work. So that is what it takes to be one of our ambassadors. And no, it's not a popularity contest. It's really just, are you passionate about the same things we are?
Love that. I love that. Raising the standards. I love that. I really do. That's good. I think if more people think the way you do and start implementing the way that they work towards, kind of your strategy of raising the bar for SMP artists and PMU artists, I think there'll be less botched work and less unhappy people. Right.
I think in anything that you want to do, right? Like it's the educational aspect is important. I mean, there's so many ways that we could dice this up and people can argue over, how long a class needs to be. But at the end of the day, I mean, if we really don't put the time and energy into our learning, we really are going out into the world just practicing on people. And I'm not saying that that's 100% bad. There's going to be some level of practice, but I would much rather release people into the industry under my name, knowing that they have all the right tools in place, and knowing that I made sure that they were on real people under my supervision, practicing that skill for a while before we have them, take a stab at it, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Thank you, Valerie.
But yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Daddy, Daddy.